Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News. It is Sunday, June 8th, and we are going to be talking about the violent insurrection that is occurring in the state of California today and will probably be occurring for the next few days, and what is being done about it and that we're aware of. So that way there is no question as to what's right, what's wrong, what's fake, etc. Uh, Basic story we'll start with is the fact that LA has become ground zero for the anti-immigrant movement, from what we've understood. And if you have not been following reporter Andy No, which is NGO on X, Andy has extensive coverage on one of the bad actors here, which is the Antifa operation coming out of the Washington, Oregon area. Seattle, Washington, Oregon area, which has linked up with the anti-immigration factions, which is there's a cartel influence in there as well with the Mexicans, and of course the Free Palestine anti-immigrant groups, which are all sort of the same thing. They've all linked up together and decided that they were going to throw down in Los Angeles for a number of reasons. Number one, it's in the state of California where Gavin Newsom openly supports all this type of bullshit. The city of Los Angeles, of course, the mayor there openly supports all this kind of stuff. The city police chief has said the Los Angeles Police Department will have nothing to do with the ICE units and also nothing to do with the protests, which means that the people that live in the city of Los Angeles, and I guess Los Angeles County, are at the mercy of wandering bands of criminals who are looting and burning and doing all the usual things, because the way to get to an ICE unit is by robbing a liquor store. If we rob all the liquor stores, the ICE units will go back to wherever they're from. They did make a mistake this time in the fact that they started to go at the detention facilities and the locations where ICE operates out of, which makes sense tactically, but doesn't make sense if you are going to be involved with somebody who's hands-on, like Mr. Holman or Mr. Trump. What has occurred in the last 24 hours is that President Trump has activated a few thousand members of the National Guard of California, which is his right under, give me a second here, I just had it. He has enacted 2,000 troops to address, in his words, address the lawlessness that is allowed to be festering here. And he is allowed to do that under Title 10 of the U.S. Code on the Armed Services, Section 12406, which is if there is a rebellion or danger of a rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States, the president is allowed to do this with the guards units without having to consult the governor of the state, which is what he has done. So now you're going to have armed federal agents as well as National Guardsmen in the streets of Los Angeles to deal with these terrorists. And they are going to start arresting them. Dispersing, I think, is going to be over in the future. There'll be some disbursement, but obviously you want to try to target key members. If they are operating the way they normally do, the people that run these things will be out of the city within the next probably couple of hours once they give their marching orders. And it's just going to be a matter of time from there on in. They do not like to want to target this kind of thing. There has been Molotovs and things like that. If they decide to go to guns, that's going to be a whole different story, but expected it was coming because we've allowed Antifa to exist as long as we have, and we'd have allowed the sister organization who changes names a lot, which is for the Free Palestine anti-immigration, anti-ICE group as of now, which will change its name again in a week, to exist as well, with the blessing of the majority of the Democrats in the House and the Senate. Okay, so that's your background situation there. And like I said, it was no shock when you read Andy's paperwork about the terrorist link up, because the group that operates out of Seattle, Washington, may not be the cadre that runs the whole thing, but they are definitely in the top two tiers or three tiers. They were sent down to mold the troops, so to speak. They've already picked the sections of the city they're going to play in and things of that nature. What is going against them optically, and always has gone against these protesters optically, is the fact that you do not see one American flag on the outside of the opposition. So Mom Pa Kettle out there in the middle of Arkansas do not see them as Americans that are aggrieved. It sees them as Mexican nationals, which is what the problem has been all along. When this initially started, Donald Trump was not able to get out from under the idea that we were victimizing Mexicans with this. It has stayed with him from one term till now, and has been the big rallying cry for everything. Doesn't matter how many, like they'll show you he's removed a couple 100,000 people, whereas Obama did millions, Biden did millions, everybody else has done millions. He's done a few 100,000. But there's also people that are, but once again, at that point, they weren't keeping them in the country to become potential voters for the future. There was a different plan. Plans evolve. Okay. So that's where we stand at this point. Now, let's talk about what's going on and what this rioting really, what do we mean by a rioting? Okay. There is a couple things going here, which is the Democrats in general have been calling inciting riot, let's say. So what they've done is a couple of them have been a little more careful than others. The mayor and the governor have both been more careful about what they say because they do not want to fall under California or federal law. There's going to be two separate ones. It's going to be the California law, which nobody's going to try to prosecute anybody under, and then it's going to be the federal law. Okay. So they're saying it's a First Amendment to say that we support the rioting, but let's say it as a protest. Public officials use what's called the Brandenburg test. Speech intending imminent lawless action or fairly likely to produce it is not protected. So if I say go out and burn the liquor stores, but take all the booze out, that is not going to be protected. If I say support the illegal immigrants from the fascist ICE unit, it's going to be a question. All right. Now, we have heard city officials say take over the streets. Now, that meets what they call the Brandenburg threshold for incitement and is criminal. Okay. So, whoever you hear say take the streets, force the ICE units out, this, that, and the other thing, that's straight incitement. They all mean incitement, but these are the ones that are breaking the law. Okay. So that's what you're going to have to deal with. So what we have here is your example again. Mayor Bass of Los Angeles condemns the federal raids. And I'm going to read this as an example for you so you can see it. This is actually Wikipedia had this out. So I'll tell you where it came from. Condemned federal raids and said, we will not stand for this. She also affirmed that peaceful protest is protected and explicitly opposed violence. So that's a good one. Unless she directly urges violence or property destruction, they will likely not cross the legal line on her. She has to say, burn the city, burn the ICE unit, do things like that. That's because of politics, believe it or not, more than anything else, more than free speech. They have the ability to say things that are crazy. You'll also see that under Hakeem Jeffries, who honestly should be censured for the things that he has said recently, because he's all that and being a punk. That would be another thing to censure him for. But he should at least be, there's two levels that are censuring, and there's another disciplinary level, and there's also fines. He should probably get censured as the representative of the minority of the House to say the things that he has said regarding rioting and regarding attacking ICE units. Okay. Because by him putting people in the way of this, he is going to bring about harm to these idiot rioters, most likely more so than the agents. But you never know, because what happened the other day, if you saw it out there, was the agents were out there with long rifles, meaning an actual rifle. They don't need to have rifles when you're fist fighting with people in the street. What are the fist fighters going to do? They're going to try to grab your rifle. Pistol's a little harder, but if you got a rifle on your chest, there's a good chance someone's going to try to take that from you. And this isn't your father's old M1 rifle where it's actually a club where you're going to definitely beat the shit out of them if you hit them with the rifle. Okay. So that has been some question mark there. But what's going to happen now, you understand a little bit what we're talking about with this incitement. Basically, you have the mayor of Los Angeles and the governor of California telling you to clash with the federal agents. The governor lost a step on the march by Trump activating the guards first, because if he tried to activate them, it would be to do what? Counter the federal agents in the field. So now Trump already has his 2,000 out there in the field. If Newsom were to activate any troops, it would definitely be to try to go green on green, and that would be the beginning. That would definitely be the beginning of the end. Okay, so that's where we stand on that. And I know I'm a little slow, but I've got to try to cover these things because so many people are lying about shit. And these are people that are in authority positions, which makes it even more egregious when they do it because they don't care. I mean, they haven't cared for years. They're specifically not giving a shit now. And this way, when you hear it and somebody say, well, why, we know what we're talking about. I know you know what you're talking about. I know what's going down, but it doesn't hurt to be backstopped on that, because every once in a while you say, I didn't think of it that way. When you say, I don't think of it that way, that gives you doubt, and doubt is not what you need at a time like this. Okay, so what we have here, the real fight in Los Angeles, specifically Los Angeles, has nothing to do with boo-hoo-hooing on these illegals. It is very much the old days, Chinatown, the Orange Mafia, Cesar Chavez. All these things have been swirling around in the atmosphere for years, and they're showing up on a day like this in Los Angeles. And I'll explain what we're talking about here. So this is an issue that's got basically a lot of profound ethical and constitutional questions. The nexus between the sanctuary city policies, and discussed this before, illegal labor markets, and political power in the city of Los Angeles, which is new. We don't usually give a shit about California. But California is probably the most famous of the states in the glorification of the use of illegal slave labor of all 50 states. Okay, so it's time we probably talk about. Uh, and if you see, that's what the title was: Los Angeles liberals fight to keep their slaves, right? And I'll explain precisely why the title is a justified title. It's something that's been going on with illegal immigration for years. It's the structure behind what pays the Democrats to do what they do when it comes to illegal immigration. And it's what we have to take out from under them for them to eventually stop doing this shit. Okay. So here's the empirical data for Los Angeles County. Okay, there's approximately 10 million residents, estimated to host roughly 1 million illegal immigrants in Los Angeles County. That's the city of Los Angeles, is mostly also the county as well. Okay, so if you're trying to figure out how much bigger, it's kind of like that with the outskirt edges, which is the LA sheriffs. So you have LAPD and LA sheriffs running the thing. Okay, within the city of Los Angeles proper, there are between 250 to 350,000 illegal immigrants active in the workforce. So that's in the city of LA. The illegal labor force is disproportionately concentrated in several key sections: construction, hospitality, the garment industry, sweatshops, food processing, domestic work, and labor. Domestic work meaning you're a servant in somebody's house 9 times out of 10. Some of it is going to be construction, but that's really covered in construction. Okay. And the landscapers. In these sectors, illegal immigrants are often paid sub-minimum wages, receive no health benefits, and operate without legal protections. In effect, a caste of economic serfs within a modern American metropolis. And this has been going on forever. Like I said, Cesar Chavez was not a friend to the illegal. He wanted the jobs in the area that he dealt with to be run by American Mexicans. And he would beat the shit out of and terrorize any illegals that got into any of the fields that his boys were operating in. Look it up for yourself. This has always been how it is. It's the us against them. They finally got around Chavez because he was a socialist, but he was not their kind of socialist. This arrangement yields an estimated 8 to 12 billion annually in avoided costs. Okay. That's a de facto subsidy to LA based business elites who profit from systematic labor exploitation. Picture construction, which we have in Florida. We have the same problem with the construction industry here, and also with some of the other industries as well. Not all of them, but most of them. Okay. But those people are saving 8 to 12 billion dollars in their industry, which normally would have not been there. Hence, they're making a lot more money to work in a state that condones and supports and promotes illegals. Okay. Now, why does the leadership of Los Angeles, which vocally champions human rights and social justice, so vigorously defend this exploitation system? The answer is, as you can imagine, the convergence of economic interest and political strategy. Businesses that depend on cheap illegal labor contribute generously to the political campaigns of city and state leaders. Go look it up. In turn, these leaders maintain sanctuary policies that shield the illegal labor market from federal enforcement, like the riots that are occurring. Moreover, the long-term political calculus is clear. Mass illegal settlement increases the number of U.S.-born children of illegal immigrants. Citizens under current interpretations of the 14th Amendment, thereby expanding the future voter base for one particular party, the Democrats. In short, the sanctuary policies serve both to enrich business allies and to secure permanent political advantage through demographic engineering. It's kind of heady, but that's where they're going. Very much the same way that you see what they're doing to the people of Ireland and England and France. They're going to breed out the locals and have people that are exclusively beholding to them in a position to vote them in forever, and then allow additional illegals to come in and victimize them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So ethically, this system's indefensible. The rhetorical facade of compassion obscures a deeply cynical reality, okay? Illegal workers in Los Angeles exist in a condition of permanent vulnerability. They're deprived of legal protections that even the most basic labor standards would require. Legally, the situation raises profound questions of equal protection and civil rights. American citizens and legal residents are denied. American citizens and legal residents are denied fair access to employment opportunities in sectors dominated by illegal labor. The state, by refusing to cooperate with federal immigration law, undermines the rule of law and contributes to the maintenance of a second-class workforce. The old, they do the jobs that you won't do. They do the jobs that you're not able to get, is what they do. Don't you think there are poor and impoverished white and black and Puerto Ricans and a bunch of other people who are here legally that could function on those jobs? And what will happen eventually, my friends, is they will cut off public assistance, and then those citizens will become the permanent underclass and not the illegals. Trust me, that's how it's going to go on austerity. All right. That's why Trump's trying to push these people to get them other people into the workforce. Everybody knows it's coming. It's going to come sooner rather than later. All right. So get into the workforce while you can, because if you aren't in the workforce or you're not in something legitimate, then you're going to have some real problems. Okay. It's not an exaggeration when I say it's slavery. I've been saying it's slavery for years because I know what this is. Okay. This is a form of modern slavery. And the carrots for them are when we have these riots or when some celebrity says, I'm with you wherever the fuck country you're from. Viva la raza and all this nonsense. It doesn't mean shit. It means shit to some peasant from wherever. Oh, they're really with us. It's the evil Trump and all these other people. But it's not true. It's false hope at the end of a goddamn tunnel, guys. And the slavery, not in the classical sense where we have them all chained to a wall, but in the structural economic sense of a captive, rightless, exploitable underclass sustained by your state and your local policy choices. And that, look at yourself, take a good hard look and say, exactly, this is exactly what's going on. And my need to have slaves, as these assholes do, victimizes the poor of the United States. What's going to happen to the poor? We have argument all the time on these different shows. I don't like to. I had an opportunity to do a couple, and I didn't want to do it because I'm not going to argue with these motherfuckers. You state your case, and then I'll talk to people, but I'm not going to do it to be clever. We're not doing this to be clever. Some people are, I'll tell you that. Some people are out there making good money on this stuff. But that's not what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to have some ethics out there in your life. You're supposed to have some community spirit. Okay. So, what is the solutions for this kind of situation? Well, obviously, we're going to see what happens once the National Guard gets down and dirty in the streets of Los Angeles with the federal agents. What's probably going to happen is these protesters, especially the weekend warriors, because this is protest season in the summer, are going to find out what it's like to be up against units of men who are tired of this shit. Units of men who the shackles of litigation may be taken away from starting now, and they will be out there to functionally stop this shit in its tracks and not just drive the forces back to Seattle, but incarcerate as many of them as possible. And that one, which point when they start getting bagged up under federal law, because this is all federal stuff, guys. This is not local. And we always put those notices up on different things about the federal time because federal time is tough. Federal time is longer, and you're a terrorist now. This is going to put you on a special watch list. Everyone's talking about Palantir. We're going to talk about Palantir in a couple of days. Everyone's talking about Palantir. This is the kind of thing that puts you on a special watch list for the rest of your freaking life. You may not even be able to buy a car or whatever you want to do. Go get a liberal arts degree at Brown. It probably won't happen. So what should be done or what can be done? And these are things that you can push through your local government. You can ask for this, even amongst the people that are dealing with the president. You have to have mandatory e-verify implementation across all Los Angeles employers. Every employer should have to have e-verify. And people will say, well, that's spying on you and it's your rights. No, it's not really. Not really. Okay. They say that to you to make you paranoid. I told to a fellow today, he's like, oh, there's a new system that's going to look at you and they're going to do this, that, and the other thing. I said, you don't worry about that because if I'm the man, I can go to a FISA court tomorrow with absolutely no evidence, pull out a subpoena and look at you all I want. And there's not a goddamn thing you can do about it because you won't know. So what can they possibly do to you more than that? Unless they're going to come out and shoot you in the face, throw your kid in front of a car, right? Not much to be done. So mandatory e-verify, aggressive auditing and prosecution of businesses engaged in illegal hiring. You'll know who they are. Most of the big maid services, corporate level maid services, the big landscapers, the big construction companies, any restaurant that has more than 4 locations. These are all jobs that you're going to have illegals in. Okay. And you're saying, well, that's kind of petty. Well, it's kind of petty until we're going to talk about how many people are available. There are at least, and then we'll go back to the other part. Contrary to, like you say, the popular narrative, Los Angeles has, this is quoted from one of their documents, a sufficient pool of legal with an L, unemployed and underemployed residents, which are estimated at over 200,000. There are 200,000 people in Los Angeles who can't get a job because of this, who could readily fill these jobs if the lawful standards of labor, which are on the books, were enforced. When somebody who's a total racist, I'm going to be a total racist. I'm driving down the street of Compton. I say, look at all these motherfuckers standing out here holding up the front porch. Why don't they go out and look for a job? And I'm not doing this as an excuse, but I'll tell you what, the jobs that they could get are unavailable to them, and they will never be advertised where they could see them anyway. They advertise in the Spanish stuff or word of mouth, things like that. At one point, there was a company that was out in the Midwest, a chicken processing plant. They advertised in the newspaper in Mexico. Didn't even advertise in the United States. Advertised in a thing in Mexico. Like if you saw it and you got up there within 2 weeks, you were hired. So who's playing games right there, right? Now, back to what we're talking about. Federal funding penalties for jurisdictions that obstruct immigration enforcement. Well, you already heard the president's going to do that with California. And Gavin Newsom said California has a lot of money and we don't need federal money. Well, that's also a big fucking lie because he can tax money. He can't keep it because it has to go out the door to pay for all his weird social experiments. Okay. Public investment in training and mobilization of the city's underemployed or unemployed legal residents to fill these roles currently occupied by illegal labor. You'll say, well, how much is millions of dollars is that going to cost? Construction, cleaning, landscaping, working in a kitchen. If you can't train people to do the basic parts of those jobs within a month, I'm giving you a month, you're out of your mind. All right. You're out of your mind that you couldn't do that in a month. Okay. The construction is a little harder, but then again, we're not letting them touch any electric and plumbing and shit like that. It's pick the board up, carry the board over there, pick the nails up, carry the nails over there. If you watch any videos on Instagram or TikTok, which are the building inspectors showing you the labor that's damaging brand new homes in Arizona, 90% of the people on those job sites are illegals. I'll tell you 90% because they aren't going out and enforcing it all there. So what they're doing is they run out of other areas. They go to places like these Arizona jobs where there are 3,000 houses being built and nobody's out there to bother them. It's like another city in Mexico, but they're building the houses incorrectly. And the builder doesn't care because you'll see the ins and outs of how builders rip off homeowners anymore. I wouldn't want a new home if you gave it to me. If you told me I'm going to get a brand new home and I didn't know anything about houses and I didn't know to go get an inspector of my own to go in, I wouldn't want one. All right. So training is always important. We have to have a national public dialogue to expose the moral hypocrisy of sanctuary policies as practiced in Los Angeles and similar cities. All right. Because Los Angeles is the most glaring example. I would tell you in my state, Miami, most of the county of Broward, Miami-Dade County, I'll say countywide for us because it's more than just a city. Miami-Dade County, Broward County, Palm Beach County, and who else is bad? Supposedly up near Orlando, there's also a bunch of shitbags doing the same thing because they have these big developments they're doing. These guys are making a fortune. If you look at the price of the house, because we're going to stick with houses for a minute here, you're not going to see when they say it costs me $100,000 to build the unit. You could have union people working on that who are theoretically better trained, right? And who are here legally. And the cost will be very similar. Will not be 30% more, I guarantee you that. Maybe 5% or so more. The only difference is that 5 or 10% would not be seen in the final price because that would come out of the owner's profit. So the owner would still make a profit of 30%, let's say, but he's not making a profit of 40%. And he needs to buy that Jaguar and that whatever transsexual hooker that he's into over there in Nevada. That's the issue here. How much money you can suck out of these projects by using slaves. Because you have the slave of the old days. You have the slave of the plantation without any of the initial cash investment. So let's be real honest about that. In the old days, I'd go down to the market and I would buy a guy or a girl, whatever I'm buying, right? I'd buy them for however much money up front, thousands of dollars. It was the equivalent of a tractor or whatever. Now I also have to feed them, clothe them, care for them, blah, 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 blah. All those things add up. Modern day slavery, I don't have that initial payment. I don't have to maintain them. I don't have to do shit except for pay them once a day or once a week. Who wouldn't say that that's a better deal, right? But it is slavery nonetheless. So that's where we stand on this one. I'll tell you more about the Los Angeles deal as it goes along. Let's hope there's a long string of indictments and somebody goes to jail for putting all this shit together. I doubt it, but we have to start somewhere. All right. So that's it for me. Have a nice Sunday, and I will talk to you later on.